Hello and welcome to challenge video number 1. Today we are talking about what makes a good photo, as you probably read up at the top. And I want to just jump straight in with looking at some photos because in order to take photos, you can have all of the technical capabilities in the world, but if you don't think about where you're pointing it and what you're trying to do with the photo you're taking, what you're trying to convey, what emotions you want people to catch, what personality, what story, what depth. A photo is so much more. I mean, a photo of me is a photo of me, but the way it's lit, the way it's angled will change how you see, perceive, and understand who I am. So we're going to start looking at some photos. Righty ho, let's go. How epic is this dog? To be fair, let's get rid of the banner saying, there we go. Now, at first I thought he looked a bit like a teddy, and then I realised, no, he's a real dog. I think this photo is a really good photo because it gets you up close and personal and you feel like you're there with this dog, and it's also quite hilarious with the big specs. I think this photo is not such a good photo because my eyes are distracted by the red chair up on the right hand side. Do you see that? So you're drawn to him, but then the next thing you're looking at is this chair. If that chair was just out of the picture and it was all dark like this, I think it would be more powerful. But the setup got down low, made us get in with him, so we're like at his level. When you see somebody level to level, we engage in a different way. So, wrong one. Once we get going, it'd be grand. There we go. So is this a good photo? You would say that's not a beautiful photo of a horse or a donkey. That's not a stunning photo. It's not majestic. Though he's in a majestic backdrop, the snow, his lovely sort of white golden locks, but he's going, rah! So this, I think, is a very good photo in that it demonstrates moment. And when I say moment, I mean in that moment they've managed to catch that photo really low and close angle so you can see the teeth in a way you wouldn't normally experience them. It's brought you into it and made you feel like you're actually there. So in that way, I'd say that's a brilliant photo because it's broken convention. It's not the same as normal. It's made you think. A good photo stirs an emotion in you or makes you think. This squirrel, I'm in two minds about this squirrel. I think it's a very beautiful photo. I think its composition is really quite pleasant. Him over here on the left, looking across the empty space, the leaves in the background. Him, what really catches it for me, do you see he's dropping the nut? As he's munching, there's a little bit coming down, but he looks a bit startled. He's not quite looking at us or away. I don't feel like we're in his world. He's very much aware of us and he's quite tense. So it makes me feel tense, which is probably why I don't like it as much. It's beautiful, but it makes me feel tense. Whereas this one, this is not a pretty photo. It is not a beautiful photo, but it is a brilliant photo. If you were trying to convey your sense of humour, if you wanted to give a look of sort of absolute shock, cartoon style, like, oh, I'm cowering, and the way that even the legs are bent and it feels like he's leaning backwards, the way they've angled it so it feels like he's backing away and his eyes are so bright towards you, that is really clever. So a lot of thought has gone into that incredibly simple image. Ditto here. This both feels incredibly ordinary. It's eggs. It could be your sister or you. It's just a blank white kitchen wall. Normal day. Pulling a face. What do all kids do? They pull faces all the time. I'm pretty good at it myself, but quite normal. But then it's used a lot in advertising images like this. You see them used a lot by supermarkets. So at the same time, it feels fake because it feels a bit like it's been done by a supermarket or something. So for yourselves, when you're thinking about how you take your image, how can you change what the viewer sees in their perception? Are you copying something somebody else has already done, or are you doing something new? So here, This is a very done archaeological, wrong one, architectural photo. Lots of people do photos like this. However, this is different because they've managed to get a building that's actually black. They've not put the image into black and white, the darkness. And then it's the angles. As you look up, you've got to get those lines. And they've managed to get them to draw. So there's almost, go with my finger, you're not going to see it, mouse. It's almost a diagonal line across the screen, and that makes me happy. This, however, I want to know, do you think this is a good photo? I'm imagining you'd probably say no. It makes you feel a bit sick and dizzy because it's literally, my eyes are struggling to catch up with it. If I look to the horizon, it feels really still. Right back here where the sea meets the cloud line in effect on the horizon. And up on the clouds are going slower. But down here, there's such a sense of motion. And that's because they're spinning. And when you spin, whatever's closest to you moves fastest, and what's furthest away moves least. But if you were trying to give the sense of running away, of escaping, or of running and playing and twirling, then this is amazing. If you were trying to give the sense of just colours and ocean and a feeling of a sort of a slightly heavy, muted day, you know, with the dark clouds, it's great. If you were trying to take a really good still photo and you wanted the sea to blur, that's not the way to make the sea blur. You use a tripod and you wait for the sea to go in and out while the sand stays still. More like this one. They've got the foreground in complete stillness, the starburst of the sun and the waves lapping against the shore. Now this is a beautiful photo. The other one, however, just completely gave that sense of movement, of running, of freedom perhaps, or excitement, whereas this is more peaceful. And here you look at that and go, is that not a terrible photo? How can that be good? But if you were there and actually you wanted to make somebody look over the girl's shoulder and feel like they were walking up and looking past her and looking at the ocean, it does that so well because you can't focus on her, but the ocean draws you in, so you almost forget about her and the telescope. And because they're along the third lines, one on the left, one on the right, and not in the middle, you're able to look through either side and through the middle. It helps you to just look past, a bit like a magic eye picture. I'm sure you've seen photos like this used on music and TV and so forth. The perfectly still wall and the mystery person walking past at high speed. Or actually, they could be walking quite slow. It's just that the camera, when it takes a photo like this, instead of going, it goes, and then closes. So the shutter opens, lets the light in, and then it closes again while he's walking past. It's not a perfect portrait of a person, but it's his perfect sense of dark, mysterious man. Is he up to no good with his hood pulled up and his face hidden? You question. It leaves you questioning. And a good photo makes you ask questions. So I would say that is a good photo. Ditto here. You want to know what the families are doing, what this little child over here on the left, the right in the blue top is doing or saying. Why is this man leaning forward? I think it's because the bus is actually in transit and he's trying to walk backwards because he's nowhere near any of the rails, so he's probably jolted forwards. And the woman, you wonder what she's carrying. You can't see because she's blurred by the movement. It makes you tell the story and you have to fill in the blanks. It's not obvious. The story keeps giving, keeps going. So anything that's not 100% obvious straight away makes us question quicker. Now, is this a good photo? I would say maybe. Maybe it's a good photo if you're trying to sell a house. Is it a good photo if you were the one who lived there and wanted to remember your immaculate kitchen? Maybe. Is it a good photo otherwise? I think it's a bit bland. But in the right context, it is a good photo. It depends what purpose you have. Is this a good photo? Completely different kitchen. It's a mess. It feels quite short. You've got all sorts of stuff going on. It looks a bit dated. But I think it's a really good photo in that it depicts those people's lives in that time. And they've actually done a really good job of getting the walls to be straight. Try getting a camera and taking a photo where you've got lots of different lines like doorposts and walls and stuff. You'll find it's really hard to not let them tilt. because you have to twist the camera exactly parallel. Two parallel lines run alongside each other. You've got to get it parallel to the wall. So, children's toys. These look incredibly fake. No toddler of that age is going to be able to keep the toys that tidy and not eat the cookies. I did not even notice them before. That is a swirly whirly bun and some biscuits. Yeah, they're either completely fake or this is so posed. But compared to this, which isn't posed, or is it? Somebody has specifically chosen to take a photo of this pile of Starbucks cups. Why? Probably some sort of commentary on environment, on wastage, on consumer culture where we buy things just to throw them away, and it has the plastic and everything builds up. So it's an ugly photo, but it's a powerful image because it makes you go, "Oh, am I involved in that?" Whereas this one, you look at it and go, "That feels peaceful and nice, and I would like my toys to be that good." He's probably selling some, to be fair. Is this a good photo? Well, as a social commentary, probably. If you were doing history in a few years' time, the COVID era, where everybody had to wear face masks, and there were that many of them, you'd just see them abandoned on the sidewalk or in the grass or walking through the path in the park. And also, they've managed to get a nice diagonal with the grass and the bark chippings, and they've got the mask perfectly straight through the middle. So, interesting composition and a commentary. Not the sort of thing I'd want on my wall, not a good photo for putting up in my house, but to make a point and to be artistic, good photo. Here, this shows you some of the art of what we're going to look at. I want you to consider this whenever you take a photo, think, can I do it differently? Can I do it better? Because the first photo is a mug. On the side, you can see the kitchen counter, you can see the fridge underneath it. It's not very powerful. If you cover over with your hand and you close one eye, then you look at it and you go, it's not exciting. You swap to the other picture. It's a lot closer up. It's got more impact. There's nothing distracting there. It's a more powerful image. It's still not perfect, but it tells a different story. So I always love Lego men. They make me so happy. Little models put into real contexts, like sand on the beach here and the footprints. That's awesome. I had to stick that in there. Is this a good portrait? Well, if you take the traditional definition that a portrait must include the face, no, there's no faces. But it tells the story. This is journalistic portraiture, isn't it? It tells the story of what are these children doing. They're playing with the chalk, so it features the chalks and their hands and the act of doing. You can see that they're on their knees, they're getting them ready, they'll be scribbling on the pavement shortly. So it tells a story. This image, you might say, is fantastic. He's laughing, the emotion, the joy, and this burst of light. It feels light and airy and lifted. This one, you get that sense of the fact that that crocodile is going, rah! You can feel him making that noise. You can feel the intensity. Is this a good portrait? It's a slightly old, faded, but that is the style of Polaroid. It's got bits on, but what does it do? It captures the emotion of them in the vastness of where they're visiting. He's pulling a tongue, his sister's trying hard not to laugh. Whereas here, they're doing that whole model look and just staring blankly. I could never do that. Not my thing. Is it a good photo? Probably for Calvin Klein, who they're probably modelling for based on the logo across the t-shirt. Or is that a Timberland necklace maybe? Anyway, so as models, that's a good photo. For families, not so much. This one, is that a good photo? Well, it's not perfect. You know, you've got random legs sticking in the background up here. You've got a tree growing out this guy's head. But what does it do? It tells you the story of how much effort this kid's putting in. Tug of war, going, whoa! And everybody behind him's like, why are we doing this? What's the point? Nobody else is trying. This tells the story of what her hobby is, of what she's doing. The painting, it features, you know, the slightly chipped nail varnish, the colours that all match. It's an interesting portrait into her life at that time. This one, him and the camera, same thing. This one, where are we going on an adventure to? That back of somebody. You don't see their face, but you get the sense of mystery of an adventure and going into the unknown. This kid is loving life right there. And by getting down lower, you can feel he feels higher. But that's completely real. That kid could jump that high. But what do you think of this one? Is that a good photo? I think it's a good optical illusion, or somebody's done a very good job of Photoshop and they've taken a pose with a ladder on and photoshopped the ladder out, is my guess. I don't know. But it's good because it makes you stop, it makes you look, it makes you wonder because it disrupts, it's not normal. Ditto here. You've got the bright impact of the colours, and then he's got his, so he's doing a squinty thing, and he's got his eyebrow raised on the other side, and he's pulling a bit of a mouth face. So he's like, yeah, what's going on here, bruv? It's telling a story, and you question, what's he thinking? What's going on in his mind? A photo that makes you wonder what's going on. And here she looks like she's distant and it's dreamy and it's all very soft, but you wonder, what is she thinking? What is she looking at? Because I think she feels like she's looking over my shoulder, not directly at me. Shadows on the face. That, you could say, is a terrible photo because he's out of focus and that car over there isn't. But what if it's telling the story of him feeling lost and alone, and he's not realised that somebody's crawling by really slowly in a car and trying to find him? That may be telling a story. This one, really dark. Is it too dark? No, because the highlights just pick just upon the tears. So a photo that loses all the details behind him, it doesn't matter, because this is all about the emotion of the tears and the slightly dirty face. Here, everything's gone except the line of light. Here, what's down the mystery corridor? That one light, the patterns on the wall. There's very little detail to this. You could say it's a bad photo. It's underexposed, which means there's not enough light. Everything's too dark. But it tells a story. Looking down at your feet on the road, a different set of shoes, a different day, a different path, and the sunlight cutting through on the diagonal. Warm sunlight. It tells a different story. You've got skylines with sunsets. Are these good photos? I think this one's a bit grainy. It's probably done on a film camera, to be fair. I think it's not dealt with the contrast well. You can see the banding where the yellow stops and where the pink stops and where it's a bit too harsh on the highlights. So they've let it be too bright. They should have let it go a bit darker. But it is beautiful in colour and it really lifts you and feels like a hot summer's night. This one feels cool. Would it be the same if it was zoomed right in and you just had a little bit of the building and a lot of pink? No, it wouldn't. It'd be terrible. But that bird, that moment they've captured flying across diagonally down past the buildings, genius. That is gorgeous. Completely different, but still utterly gorgeous. Now, if you saw the sky before with no clouds in, the same colour, purple and orange maybe, but dull, whereas the clouds add depth and texture. So when we're looking at our photos, this is your challenge. What can you do to experiment and look around you, explore your surroundings, and I want you to tell the story of you. I want you to convey some of your story so that we have an insight into who you are. I've asked you to do an introduction for yourself, which is saying who you are, where you're from, funny story about you, what you want to get out of this. But this is to explore. You might want to you might want to do a selfie, but I implore you not just to do the pout and the phone up here. Think a bit more interestingly. Maybe you're looking off to one side, gazing into the distance. Maybe it's you sat on your bed with things around you. Maybe you want to do the photo of your feet looking down, the view that you always get to see of yourself. Maybe what you want to do is you want to take a photo of your hand holding something in front of you. Or do you want to convey an emotion or a mood? Because there's ways to do this. This conveys a real emotion and mood, and this is just like a close-up of some painting or piece of art or glasswork, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But by getting in close and just seeing the movement and the patterns, the sun, the sky, what's in the garden, what's in the kitchen, do you want some of your house? Is your story part of your family? What is your story? So I want you to depict, and I want you to make the viewer ask a question. Don't let it just be what it is. Here is a cup. Either throw it in some interesting shadow if you're going to use just one cup, or put it in a questionable place. Why is that cup there? That makes no sense. And for you, it's because that's where you always sit and have your cup at breakfast time. that's your story. So integrate your story into your images and we'll see where we go. Take care, and we will see you tomorrow for the Zoom. Bye for now.